call to order the May 23rd meeting of the Code Enforcement and Nuisance Board. If we could have roll call.
Deere.
Yes.
Dearbone.
Yes.
Holman.
Yes.
LaPointe. Harmon.
Yes.
All right, now if we can have the staff be sworn in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. We will now ask, is there any, we are now going to approve our minutes for the April 25th meeting. Do we have any comments? If not, we can.
Motion to approve. Second.
Deere, Holman, roll call.
Deere.
Yes.
Dearbone.
Yes.
Holman.
Yes.
Harmon.
Yes.
We will now move into our hearing agenda. Our first appeal is case number 1 under Planning and Zoning. This is case number 2022-7830, 906 Fairway Street, owner Wayne D. and Stacy B. Dickens, respondent Wayne Dickens via life-size video, Officer James Hetty. And is there somebody on video to represent Mr. Dickens? Okay.
Yes, I can hear.
Okay. All right. Mr. Hetty, if you'll go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I received, at the beginning of September of last year, 2020, complaint reference to
I can't hear you.
short-term rental at 906 Fairway Street. Upon looking at some of the platforms, there on this PowerPoint there will be different representations of Airbnb and what's called VRBO, 2 platforms for short-term rentals. I did find that the property was in violation, and I sent a notice of violation back in September. As you'll see, there's these slides have the different dates, but also some monetary values on the property. Like this slide shows, per night $478. For 7 nights would be $4,048. Anyway, the notice of violation went out. I revisited back in, let's see, right at the end of October, and found that the property was still in violation. Therefore, issued the first citation November the 3rd, reference to the short-term rental. Yeah. The end of November, I found that the property was still in violation of short-term rental, and issued second citation. This shows just the different dates and different monetary values for the rentals. In January, I received a complaint, and this is actually from the complainee, where he had designated where he could rent the short-term rental property. I looked on site, and it had been changed to the 30-day, and not the under the 30-day threshold for the short-term rental. I ended up talking to Mr. Dickens back in February the 6th, and we spoke reference to the short-term rental. It's prohibited in the single-family residential area, but Mr. Dickens informed me that he's getting ready to sign an 18-month lease, and it won't be short-term rental. in March 2023, there's evidence of it's still being rented as short-term rental. There's 2 reviews. Therefore, I issued citation number 3, and I again spoke to him. Actually, this came in for an email, and per Mr. Dickens, it's no longer on the short-term rental platform, but you'll see that that stipulates that it's on the VRBO site. Yeah. And this is the overview just of the notice of violation. September, 2 citations in November, complaint again in January, and then citation in April. And here we are in May.
Mr. Dickens, first, if you don't mind, if I'll swear you in and then let you have your side of the story. If you'll raise your right hand.
No, I can't hear. What did he say?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me, sir?
No, I can hear you faintly, but I can't hear you.
Okay, I was going to try to swear you in. Let's see. All right, if you can raise your hand and repeat after me. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So help me God.
All right, if you give us your name, and then you can tell us your side of the story, sir.
My name is Wayne Dickens, and what was the other thing you asked me?
You can go ahead with your side of the story.
Well, so to just give you an overview, me and my wife purchased that home about a year ago, in February of 2022, and put all of our savings into that home. And 3 months after that, we basically got a job offer that we couldn't refuse in Dallas, Texas. And so we attempted to rent the home just because of rising interest rates and the market really kind of flipping during the summertime. We were trying to get a renter in there so we can abide by the HOA and code enforcement of the city. We just couldn't. And so we just got to a point financially where we had no other choice but to put it up for short-term rental. We did that during the fall, and I communicated with Mr. Hardy during that time. When we got fines, we paid the fines. I didn't push back on any of those fines at all. And the entire time we were working to try and get a long-term renter in there. We did get a long-term renter in there. We got a contract, a lease signed in February. I believe they moved into the home April 1st. And so when we got the citation about the third violation, I was a little confused as to why. I communicated with Mr. Hardy that it was set for 30 days only. I also presented evidence of the new lease agreement to the court and VRBO messages where, yes, I believe it was April 17th and April 15th, were trying to book our property. And because it was set for 30 days or more, and actually I had the calendar blocked until 2025, they couldn't even attempt to book dates, which is why they contacted me directly. You can see in one of my messages that I said, hey, we have a lease for over a year and a half. And so Since April 1st, we've had tenants living in that home. They paid for all 18 months up front. And from everything that I know, they're getting along with neighbors, and we're back in compliance with HOA and the city of Bolton.
So at this time, this property is under lease for 18 months, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So I'm trying to put my hands around this. So basically our issue is that it's still on VRBO. Were the citations paid on, we had 3 citations.
That's correct. 3
Each were
citations.
paid, is that
Yeah.
correct?
The first 2. I don't know about the third one. The third one's been appealed.
Third one was April 25th.
Correct.
So if the first 2 violations were paid and this one has not been paid because it's been appealed, Mr. Dickens, when did these people move into your property here in Bowling Green?
April 1st was when they had access to keys to our home.
Hey, were you aware that VRBO, it was still up on VRBO at
Yes,
that
sir.
time?
It's listed on VRBO. It's still listed on VRBO, but it's set for 30 days or more, and it's also the contract is blacked out until 2025.
So what you're
And
saying
it's
is,
only still because with VRBO, it's longer bookings, and it gives me the ability to potentially get my next long-term guest when this current tenant checks out.
so even though it's on there, it's listed, it's made known to people that it's not available, but it's still listed on the site.
Say that one more time.
It basically, it's still listed on the site, but on the site it's notified that it is not available. So it's still there, but it's not available for somebody to get. Correct?
Correct. Yes, sir. And there's really there's 2 modes on both Airbnb and VRBO. There's short term, which is 30 days or less, and then you can also list a property for 30 days or more. And you get to set the terms. You can set it for 6 months, you can set it for a year. And so that's primarily what we have found our tenants in the past.
Mr. Dearbone. I'm not entirely sure if anyone is here in the audience. I believe there were some neighbors that were coming as well to speak on this.
Okay, yes. If there's some neighbors who would like to speak, all right, if you'll come up and we'll swear you in. All right, first, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, and if you'll tell me your name and address and go for it.
My name's Johnny Beller. I live at 929 Fairway Street, and I'm the current president of the Heartland Homeowners Association.
Go ahead.
Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah. It was reported to me by our secretary about a big party that went on next second house down from her, and she brought it to my attention. I live out of sight of the home, and and noticed that there was a big party and loud. So I inquired about it. So I've talked to Mr. Dickens several times. Actually, I took him I hadn't met him before, but I met his wife, a nice lady that I took a coffee cake and the bylaws, the whole thing, when about a month or two after they moved in. But I've talked to him a few times, and I understood his situation, but it was still, we're still in the bylaws, and you can't rent it. But he kept telling me that he would do, that finally one time he told me he could rent it to who he wanted to. And I said, yes, you can, but not for short term. It's got to be 30 days or more. But anyhow, and so then we started trying to, in January, we sent out notices for our once-a-year HOA deals. They're $200. We finally got that in April. But I've got pictures that I made. This was in later on, March and April, I think it's April when I got those pictures of cars from Colorado, Nashville, Davidson County, Georgia, and several states. And Mr. Dickens didn't know it, probably still doesn't know it, but the person that he rented to for the 18 months, the mother is in our circle of friends, and Kay Lazarus. And so I knew, and I asked her. She said, we're moving in May the 1st. I saw 3 carloads of people from Georgia leaving out on Sunday morning in April at 10 a.m., and that's checkout time if you'll check his website. So he was still renting, and there was another guy in a pickup truck, a nice pickup truck from Georgia, that came in, had another car behind him, I forget what it was, after the people from Georgia left. This was in April. And then I talked to Kay, and she said, yeah, we're excited, we're moving in May the 1st. So I've got a copy of the lease he sent me. That's not signed, of course, but and I'm glad he got it rented. And I don't have a problem with that, but I have a problem with carloads of people from Friday night to Monday, checking out on Sunday, So.
What the HOA rules are on Fairway that you can't rent short-term?
It doesn't state that. This was done by Steve Blanton back in 1990, I believe, when they bought the whole Smith thing where all the convention center and everything is now. And that was the first development that they had. And there's 18 homes in there. That's the only HOA in Heartland. And it's not, there was no B&B back then, back in 1990. But it also states that you can't rent, I forget exactly how it's quoted, but you can't rent, do you know? Do you remember? But I should have brought a copy of them with me, our current mayor, Todd Alcott, lives down the street, and when him and his wife moved in, they was going to do a B&B on weekends, and but we informed them that there can't be. It's in there that you can't rent. I believe it says short term, but anyhow, the city has an ordinance, and we don't have I wish we had 3 months or 6 months, but probably would have to amend the bylaws, and that would have to be a lot of red tape involved in doing that. We just haven't done it, but we just want our properties values kept the same so that if we have a rental property, it's kind of going to somewhat degrade that, I guess. I don't know, but
Or do you know when in April, when you said it was a weekend, a short-term
Carloads.
VRBO or a weekend rent or something?
There was 3 carloads that came in on Friday and left on Sunday.
What date? Do you
No, I
recognize the
don't.
date?
It was in April. And the reason I know is because I had this lease that he sent, and I backed off once he said he had it rented April the 1st. I thought, well, it's I think it was around the 1st of March or whatever. And so that was fine. We'll just let the time go and we'll do it. But then April came and there were still people coming, And then after that, there was an older couple from Georgia in a pickup truck, real nice pickup truck, and another car that was there for a couple of nights. But then I talked to Kay Lazarus, and I said, y'all are moving in? She said, no, we're not moving in until May 1st. So, and then I was told yesterday by the neighbor next door, it's hearsay, I know, but he told me that the first weekend that they lived there, that they left and there was a bunch of cars there. So I don't know if he had another commitment that he had to honor, and they had to. I don't really know about that except hearsay. So.
Mr. Dickens, were you aware of anyone coming in and staying at your home in April after
No,
they
sir.
had signed that lease?
No, sir. In April, Graham had access to our home, and that was April 1st, was the first day into the home. And also, just to speak to, I didn't catch the gentleman's name, but to speak to, he referenced a party that was had. The only party that was ever had at that residency was my wife and I's going away party last summer. We worked for WKU football for 5.5 years. And so when we left, we had a lot of our players, former players and the coaching staff come out. We had a food truck in the neighborhood, and that was the gathering, quote unquote, party that was had last summer. And so there's been no parties had at the home. We've gone out of our way to try to, we knew we weren't in compliance, but we were trying to take care of our neighbors by making sure there was only 1 or 2 cars parked there, that they parked in the back, that we made sure that there wasn't any kind of noise disturbances while we were trying to find a long-term renter for our home. And we've done that.
Mr. Hetty, is this still on VRBO?
Say
It
that again.
is.
And what's the market terminology if you pull it up on VRBO?
Trying to see, because I looked today and it was on there, but also another property had that was still on there too. And I can't remember how much this one was.
That other property in this neighborhood as well, or is it somewhere else?
It's in across town on another street.
So it is.
No, but on reference to like one of his appeal texts, people can contact him through that website, and just like one of them that he's got up there, he says, I've got other homes available, so I don't, if that's a way they communicate on where he can offer different times. I don't know, but it's on the appeal form.
Right, that's a way for me to offer my homes that are being permitted by the city, because that one wasn't permitted and we were no longer running Airbnb there.
Yeah, on his appeal that he had submitted, it's got at the bottom of one of the screenshots says this home is no longer available, but I have one similar to be available this month. If interested, please text me. So
right, and the address of the home is 6486 Night Horse Court, Bowling Green, Kentucky, and that was permitted by the city to run short-term rental.
Mr. Hetty, I'm getting a little bit confused on this one, maybe like some other people too. There's been 2 citations that he paid. When was the second one paid and ended that one, and when did you start your efforts in the third one?
Yes. In my, let's see. Okay. December the 5th, I had a conversation with Mr. Dickens. And you'll see in the summary there, on that date, on the second page of mine, it says, we discussed the citation appeal process, and I read off page 2 of the Bowling Green citation where to mail the fine, $300, the first and second citations, via city treasurer, P.O. box, and it had the stipulations that's on there. Mr. Dickens advised he would mail the payment, and I advised I look forward to not seeing it as a short-term rental. So that was on December the 5th.
Okay, so that's basically what started your third investigation?
No, sir. In January, actually, there's reviews. I counted 25 plus reviews with both Airbnb and VRBO, and pretty much every month there's been reviews. So it was out of compliance in December. January, I got a complaint from the HOA, and it's got in the PowerPoint where it's documented where this individual could rent that. And when I looked, it was, there's like reviews in March too. So it's been continuously short-term rented since September when the notice of violation went out. So there's 25 different reviews through there. So it's still, when he got the third citation was in April, but that was, I could see there's reviews from March, and one of them was posted in April. It'll show, can we go to that? It'll show on that where I took a screenshot. It says when it was posted, and it was posted like April the 17th. Yeah, Debbie S. April the 17th, great family vacation, stayed 5 nights in March 2023. So, I mean, it's short-term rental has been prohibited. That's the notice of violation. Mr. Dickens has quite a few Airbnb short-term rentals, so he's familiar with the conditional use process, permit to get to use in some areas, but short-term rental for a single-family resident area is prohibited anyway. You can't even do it.
Mr. Dickens, I've got a question for you as well then. I assume for tax purposes and everything else, you keep some kind of calendar of when you rented the house on a short-term basis? I'm not sure heard me or not. Can you tell us how many short-term rentals did you do in February and March of '23?
Mr. Dickens?
Say that again, I didn't.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Do you keep some kind of a calendar of your rentals on short-term basis? How many rentals did you do in February and March of '23?
In February and March of '23,
Yes.
on all of our properties.
No, just this one. The one on 906 Fairway.
906 Fairway. February, there were 6 in February. And there were 2 in March.
Okay, thank you.
Help me understand, there's a lease to Graham Rich that began February 1st. So how did you have short-term stays after that?
No, that was when we signed the lease. We signed the lease on February 1st.
Mr. Hetty, I'm going to ask a very direct question here. Somebody help me. What does this property have to do to get in compliance?
It's in compliance as of today. You could ride over to the house right now and knock on the door, and Graham Rich and our son are living there.
No longer have
spoke-
entertained short-term rentals.
In
It
the
being-
way we know that it's off VRBO or Airbnb or whatever it is.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
And reviews, I go off reviews, but also the neighbors, you know, if they see different cars, they'll be familiar with what cars will be there.
Right.
And if there's weekends or different cars that show up,
Okay.
would be able to see if it's short-term rented.
So do you believe it was rented short-term in April?
I was made aware of the reviews because they were posted, but actually those reviews were for March.
None for April,
None that I saw.
but we just have
But
the-
it's
the
still,
neighbors'
they've got, yeah,
comments.
but there's a little lag time, I think, for reviews on that. I'm not privy to, you know, as soon as they come in. It's just if I get on there and look at the different reviews in the system.
Do you believe it was rented short-term in April?
And it's not.
I saw the 3 vehicles from Georgia leaving on Sunday morning, and I looked at my watch, and it was like 5 minutes till 10. And I said, well, 10 o'clock's checkout time. So that's what I figured.
Were you aware that they were there on Saturday or
I saw the
Friday?
cars there.
When did you see cars there? Friday, Saturday?
I can't remember. I think it was Saturday, and there's three cars, and they were parked mostly in the back, trying to not be in view.
So now, Mr. Dickens, when did the current residents, when did they actually move in again?
April 1st. And I'm not pushing back against anything except for the citation that was given to me after April 1st. If they had given me a citation in March, I would have paid it, no problem. But as of April 1st, we were no longer short-term rental. We were in compliance. And that's the only reason why I'm pushing back on this citation, is because we were cited after April 1st and we were in compliance with the city. And I communicated that with our HOA president and also with James as well, emailing him the same information that I gave you guys, the screenshots and the lease agreement.
What are your comments about people staying there over the weekend in April, per the neighbors' comments?
Can you repeat that, please?
Sure. So neighbors have commented that there were short-term residents over a weekend in April. How do you comment on that?
Well, I mean, I had a renter there as of April 1st, so they wouldn't have necessarily known or been familiar with their vehicles or his children's vehicles or his friend's vehicles. So I can't speak to, I don't have license plates numbers and make and model in those vehicles, so I can't speak to them just not being aware that, hey, now there's someone there and those cars are there consistently. That would be my best guess.
You're stating you didn't collect any short-term rental fees in April?
Yes, sir, that's correct. I do not.
Again, Mr. Head, I need to ask a question to make sure I understand too, though. You issued the citation in April, but part of that citation was based upon the facts you saw in April reviews of March stays.
Yes, I saw evidence that he's short-term renting. When I spoke to him in February the 6th, he told me let me find it, but he told me they were getting ready to sign a lease in April. He sent me the lease, and it's February the 1st is when it was signed. So 5 days after that supposed signature. So it's been short-term rented since the whole time that the notice of violation went out in September.
Thank you.
May I add, like I said, Kay Lazarus is the mother of Graham Rich, and she's in our circle of friends. And I called her to ask her about it. And she said, yeah, that's Mr. Dickens. Said, that's the house he built. And I said, well, I beg your pardon. I said, that's Kevin Goff's old house. And she said, we're so excited about moving in. I said, well, welcome to the neighborhood. I said, when are you moving in? She said, May the 1st. So I didn't see, I know their cars. One's a BMW, and I forget the other one, but a white BMW. So I saw the red cars leaving. I saw them down there over the weekend, and I saw them leaving that morning. Nice-looking cars from Georgia plates. And Graham and Kay are Bowling Green residents, been living here most of their life, so they wouldn't have an out-of-state car.
Would it be possible that they possibly let somebody else use the house until they moved in, that they might have let somebody?
I have no idea.
Because, I mean, I'm just thinking that could possibly be.
Well, I mean, hypothetically, yeah, it probably could be, but, you know, I don't know. I can't testify to that. You'd have to ask her. But she said we're excited about moving in, and we're moving in May the 1st, and that's when they started moving in then. But there was one weekend there was still some cars, and that might have been their guest. You know, I don't know, but it's their business. If they paying rent on it and they want them to stay there, it's fine. You know, we don't care.
Mr. Dickens, how long do you think it would take you to get this property in compliance? Get it off VRBO, whatever? Because that's the issue right now.
Well, it's on VRBO for more than 30 days, so it's not out of compliance as it currently states.
So Mr. Dickens, so I can make sure I'm correct. So is the plan to leave it on VRBO and Airbnb so that way once this 18-month agreement ends, you'll be able to put it back on there? So that's why it's not coming off of either sites at this point. It's just being told on each site that it is not available, and you do have other properties if somebody's interested in getting to your other properties. Am I correct in that assessment?
No, sir. The reason why it's listed on VRBO is if there's someone who's looking for a 1-year lease, 2025, they can pull up my property, they can contact me, and we can come to an agreement in 2025 after my current lease ends.
Okay, so that's basically what I was meaning. It's being left on there for a future tenant at a future time. Correct.
Not to ever do a short-term lease again, because I understand I've kind of eaten away at any grace that I have, right? So, you know, the next one is a daily fee. My neighbors are all aware and seem to be pretty mindful of what's going on in that home. And honestly, between now and the end of, 2024, whenever this lease ends, me and Miss Rich pretty much plan to have an agreement to sell her the home. But I just don't want to be left in a situation where, that agreement falls through and I can't find any future tenants for long-term rent for that home. But if I need to pull it off the site, I can do that. Give me 48 hours and I'll get it pulled down off the site if that makes everybody happy in the situation.
So before I make a motion, James, what does he have to do to get in compliance? I'm gonna ask that one more time. Ben?
Yeah, if you got a microphone.
So let me maybe address a little bit of the ordinance and how that works. So, for a couple things, regardless of whether it's on the website or not, regardless of where it's advertised, if he rents it for less than a 30-day period, it's in violation. So whether it's on the website or not, I guess that's up to him. Almost makes it easier for us when it is on the website, because then we get to review the reviews, and that's how we know for a fact he is in violation, and Mr. Dickens has several properties throughout the community. I also think, just to clear for the record, this violation is based on the zoning ordinance and what the zoning ordinance allows and not, whether or not the HOA allows it, and their rules are a completely separate issue. So this is based on the zoning ordinance only. So I guess it doesn't make a whole lot of difference to us whether it's on the website or not. It just makes a difference to the neighborhood and to the ordinance and therefore us, that it not be rented for less than 30-day periods of time. And that includes subleasing, because there are certain schemes out there we know of where you just simply write a lease. I'd write a lease to Mr. Deere, and then Mr. Deere then handles all of the short-term rental activity. So that's still not allowed. Just because you have an 18-month lease or a 12-month lease or a 30-day lease, you still can't rent it for less than 30 days at a time. So just wanted to clear that part up for the ordinance.
And I'm trying to make it black and white, either or. If we do a multi-day fine, per day fine, what does that do? We can fine him per day, but what does that do?
I think that's a fair point. It's something I think the city's gonna, and the county too, for that matter, we're gonna have to address at some point when our fines are so small. $300 when you're looking at a $1,400 lease. You know, sometimes it's easier to pay it than it is to I guess, abide by it. So I think that's something we'll have to look at in the future. But for now, I think $300 is what we're looking at, and I think given the history of the property and the I guess nature of the violations and the amount of time we have to put in to try to address these, I think we should uphold this and let him have at it. What is the recommendation for this one again? 300, yeah. So that's what I would suggest.
And I should know, but I don't, is our repeat offender ordinance applicable to a situation like this?
No, because he's paid his citations.
Okay, but it still always have to be unpaid, because it's still like the third citation within a specified period. Either that may be something you may want to look at too, to at least stress your point.
And the zoning ordinance allows for each day a violation occurs to be cited individually. So instead of $300 and then waiting 10 days, their agency could cite $300 on Monday and $300 on Tuesday and $300 on Wednesday, because the zoning ordinance allows for that. Our city, Chapter 27, does not.
Well, I think that I would hope that we all know that this has to be looked at further, and I think that we've brought that out today, and I would hope that Mr. Dickens understands that, based upon the fact that this property's been brought to the forefront, if I'm sitting in his position in Dallas, I would never do this again. So I'm going to make a motion to uphold the citation and fine the amount of $300.
I'll second.
All right, roll call, sorry.
Deere,
Yes.
Dearbone,
No.
Holman,
Yes.
Harmon.
Yes.
So that means Mr. Dickens, you will have to pay the fine, and the citation will stand as it is written by the planning and zoning. So,
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
thank you as well, sir. I have to leave, so Mr. Holman will take over for the rest of the meeting. So, I'll see y'all later.
Okay, we'll move to case number 2, code compliance, case number 2022-8039, 727 11th Avenue East. Do we have a respondent present? Okay. Let's go ahead and hear from the
Okay.
group.
This case is the result of a proactive inspection that was conducted on November 21st of last year. During the inspection, the following violations were observed: dangerous building or unsafe structure, dangerous structure in premises, unmaintained accessory structure, improper and inadequate glazing, inadequate protective treatment, overhang extensions, dilapidated structures, failure of duty of maintenance of private property, dilapidated fences and walls, and accumulation of rubbish and garbage. A notice of violation was sent to the PVA listed owner and address on that date with a compliance reinspection of the 3rd of January. The pictures on the screen are of the notice of violation date in November. You'll see disrepair to the fence. The main concern of the crux of this whole case is this accessory structure near the rear corner of the property in a state of disrepair. The picture on the left-hand side of the screen there is another photo of that, and then the picture on the right-hand side is from High Street, looking across from High Street across the property where the front porch of that appears to be in a state of collapse. It should be noted that this is the second case regarding this structure at the rear of the location. A prior notice of violation was sent regarding the building on the 3rd of January of 2018 under case 2018-0030. We received a complaint about the condition of the accessory structure as well as some graffiti at the time that was on the fence. That case was closed as referred to the city's building division on February 22nd, 2018 after 49 days due to the property owner obtaining a demolition permit and informing me that they were going to demolish the structure. The structure was never demolished and the building division closed their permit as canceled on March 26th of 2019. You'll see on the screen here numerous correspondence between the property owner, Ms. McAllister, and I. We spoke on December 29th by email. They asked for an extension due to the weather, said that they had intended to demolish the accessory structure and never got around to it. I responded to that on the 3rd of January to let her know that they would need to obtain another demolition permit, and that I would be keeping my case open until the building was down and the property was fully in compliance due to the building still standing. On the 8th of February, Ms. McAllister and I emailed. I asked her for an update since the case had been at 80 days and there were no permits and I hadn't had any contact. She responded on the 15th saying that she had been ill and had some questions about fencing and some other concerns, to which I responded. We again corresponded on the 1st of March of this year. She asked if there was a list of demolition contractors, and I provided her the city website that has a full list of all licensed and insured contractors. On the 16th, I asked for an update. 16th of March, I asked for an update. The case had been open for 116 days and there was no progress. I did not get any response from that email. On the 3rd of May, the property was re-inspected and remained in violation, so I issued a citation and I posted it on the property as well as sent by first class and certified mail to the PVA listed owner and address. The listed re-inspection date was May 15th, which has since been postponed due to the filed appeal. The photos on the screen here are from when the citation was issued, so you see the citation posted on the property. You see the state of disrepair of the accessory structure in the rear, boarded windows, siding, protective treatment. There are still areas of disrepair to the fence, although the majority of the fence is in much better shape than it had been, but there's some areas here where there's some plywood and some other sections of fence that are falling down. And then there's also brush piled up there in the backyard. There's another picture of the building where there's disrepair to the front, missing protective treatment. So currently, well, I'm sorry, let me go back to the 8th of May. Mr. McAllister emailed me to let me know that the citation had been appealed and they had applied for another demolition permit. He hoped to have the building removed soon. He asked if the fence needed to be removed to be in compliance, that he was willing to do so. I advised him against that, that the building was the main concern. The repairs to the fence were minor in the grand scheme of things, again, the building was the main concern, but that we could try to meet on site as schedules allowed in order to look at everything else once the building was addressed. So the case has been open for 184 days. Demolition permit 2023-922 was applied for and it has been issued. The property does remain in violation. The photos on the screen here are again of the building today, about 2 o'clock this afternoon. So you see the siding, boarded windows, some items, I guess, along the fence here. I'm not sure if they came out of the building or not. Unfortunately, that's above the limit that Scott Waste will collect, and so we're going to have to address that otherwise. But still a little disrepair to the fence there. And then again, this is showing some of the disrepair to the fence on the right-hand side with the plywood there. And another view of the building from the back there. So our request is to uphold the citation and fine in the amount of $254.75.
Who applied for the demolition permit?
McAllister did when he came in to appeal. Is that correct, I believe? Yeah.
And no contractor involved with it, just the owner?
I will tell you that for sure. Hold on just a moment. So the permit was applied for on the May 8th, which is the same day that it was appealed, and Mr. McAllister had emailed me, so that was the day it was applied for. It was issued today, which is May 23rd, and it looks like it was paid for. It has gone through all the different checklists. It looks like it was held up for occupational license. That's approved for Garcia's Landscaping and Construction. So it looks like otherwise it's issued and good to go.
Would the respondent approach the podium, please, and state your name?
I'm Sandy McAllister.
Okay, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
I do have some notes. I'll try and stay focused. Initially, though, I'd like to point out that in the initial citation, a second accessory structure was cited and was left off of these pictures. That accessory structure is now only in need of a coat of paint. So our initial things that we were working on were the fencing, the garage, and this structure. We started with the fence and the garage, and we're holding off on this. Partially, it's a historic structure. I'm chair of the Historic Preservation. We struggled with what to do with this structure for quite some time. It's a mess on the outside, but it's not bad on the inside. I do want to make sure you understand that this is on an alley and backs up to another property, and to see it from High Street, you pretty much have to be in the neighbor's backyard. We are asking to have the fine removed and to have enough time to work on the accessory building to be able to use the contractor that we just got the permit for. And we're making this request because we understand that it's been open for 100+ days. Many of those days were in the winter, where you just don't do a lot of exterior work. It does seem to be implied that we've done nothing but a little bit of work on the fence, but as I previously said, that's not an accurate representation. And we had a lot of difficulty finding a contractor and it's especially difficult for anything historic, which we have learned at the historic preservation meetings. It's been, could back me up, thank you. We're also making this appeal because of financial hardship. We both, John is a substitute teacher, I work for a nonprofit. I know it sounds like having the work done and the fine is excessive for us. And I know the fine seems small, but whether or not it's small is relative. It's not small to us. Additionally, because of our financial situation, we generally do all of the work on our house and accessory structures ourselves. Because we both work full-time, that does take us longer than somebody that has the time to do this. And also, my husband is 70. He does most of the work, and he probably is a little slower than he used to be when he was younger. We did continue to work on the garage and the fence, as I said, hoping that was keeping us demonstrating good faith. We feel like we are in a little bit of a different position than a lot of people that get citations, because this is an owner-occupied property. We have, if you look at the picture of the front of our house, clearly we are working to maintain the property. We just, as I said, it takes time for us. We do apologize for not keeping Mr. Shugadorsky, informed about our contractor difficulty and I guess our general wishy-washiness about making a decision. Because we had the initial contractor difficulty, we decided maybe we should just try and repair. So we consulted with a friend of ours who does rehab in the area, and she told us she thought we could do it. So, but then as a result of this most recent citation, we felt like we just have to get a contractor as quickly as we can and go ahead and get it pulled down. And to be honest, getting the contractor this time, this is our 5th contractor. Some people on the list have their contractor's license, but apparently aren't good with the occupational license people here in Bowling Green, so kind of went back and forth with different people to finally get Garcia's approved.
Ma'am, what makes this property historical?
Well, this
And
particular building is an example of, it's called a double pen or a saddlebag building, and it is probably one of the few left in Warren County. And they're a very specific design that was used by early settlers to, well, not just to Kentucky, but probably other places. And so the design, it's 2 rooms, and they're connected by like a little breezeway. And they've got, and the interior still has the original, like, what kind of siding would that be? Like the original fireplace, lap siding. So that's what makes it historic.
How long do you think it would take you to get this property in compliance?
At this point, we would just need to talk to the contractor that's been approved and find out when he could start the job. We'd hoped to get started already, but because of the time taken.
Have a signed contract with the contractor at this point?
No, not yet, because we had to get him approved, but we will get one.
To me, that is an issue, because the city's gonna continue coming back and looking at this property and continue providing violation.
Right.
And so you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place right now.
Yes, we are. But that's why we're asking for more time. Our contractor said once he gets started, he expects it would only take a day, maybe 2.
But now?
Our contractor said when he gets started, the process should only take a day or 2 to tear it down and haul it off. He may be being optimistic, I don't know.
Which do you intend to do? You've got a demo permit.
Well, we intend to demo it now because we don't feel like we have the time to do any kind of repairs, or we'd have to get somebody in to help us. Even though our friend said that she thought it could be done, it didn't mean it could be done by us. So at this point, our intention is to go follow through with the demo permit and set up with our contractor and make arrangements with him as soon as he's ready. He just had mentioned to us that he started another job yesterday while we were kind of waiting for the permit, so.
You concede that it's out of compliance presently, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Note to it being historic, the PVA has it listed as being built at 1800.
Just so the board is aware, for the sake of clarity, Ms. McAllister and I have discussed as far back, I guess as January, February, that the city is not requiring that they demolish the building, only that they bring it up to code. So we had discussed at one point that she was welcome to have the structure repaired, repair and replace siding, the broken windows, so on and so forth. We are not requiring demolition, it just needs to be to code. So it's, you know, I think demolition is probably the easier and cheaper route to go. But certainly that's not what the city is mandating. That's their choice.
Obviously, I've never seen this property, but based on these pictures, it looks like demolition would be the cheapest way to go, for sure.
It's surprisingly sound, based on the pictures on the inside. In fact, part of one of our problems locating a demolition contractor is how heavy all of the materials would be, because of the brick fireplace goes all the way from the ground through the roof, and it's on both sides. But I mean, I agree, and we understand that they're not requiring us to demo it. Just at this point, we felt like it probably would be quicker to just.
Brad, to make sure I'm clear, this is the same accessory structure that got the demolition permit in 18?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Any other questions for the respondent? Thank you.
Okay, based on what I've heard and seen so far in this too, I'll make a motion to uphold the citation and fine in the amount of $254.75.
I second. Harmon? Holman?
Here.
Yes.
Holman.
Yes.
Harmon.
Yes.
So we're going to uphold the fine. Thank you.
How do we appeal that?
You have 30 days to appeal that to district court. That'd be, you have to go to the circuit court clerk's office, but that's where the district court clerk is also. You have 30 days from the issue of these findings of fact in which to do it.
Can I just say something for a minute?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Very upsetting to me to have a neighbor who had weapons on his property right behind mine, and have him then, in retaliation for my calling the police because of his loud music blasting away at my home, when I went down the alley to ask him to turn his music down, he threatened to shoot me. I have a video from a Freedom of Information request from the police department, though I haven't heard it because it's on a DVD and I don't have anything to play it. I also have the police report, which indicates that there were 3 weapons, 5 shots fired. Of course, we didn't hear the shots because of the loud music. We began calling early in the morning. We called several times. I did. My wife called at 4:30. No one ever came until there were shots fired and another neighbor called those shots in. But I'm sure he thinks it's my fault that the police were called because I was the one in the alley. Then he chose, as retaliation, to complain about my property. The reaction of the police, there were 3 police cars, 2 detective cars, a fire truck, and an ambulance. At the end of this horrific experience, in my opinion, the gentleman I'm describing, I saw at the end of the alley from my home, because I was probably mowing the lawn at leaves at the time, it was in November, that person still took time to describe to the detective, look at that property there. He had an obsession with turkey vultures that possibly were roosting there. Now that's false. There were some turkey vultures at one point because we had a dead animal in the front of our yard in the street. Very large turkey vultures, 2 of them came to pick that animal apart. I called animal control early that morning, no response. I called again later in the day, no response. Finally, my oldest daughter, this was several years ago, called and in tears begged someone to come and take care of this because she was afraid of these turkey vultures. The individual at 724 11th Street then came to our house and pointed out to my wife these pictures of the turkey vultures hanging around there. So shortly, several months after this incident, I checked to make sure that there was no roosting in the top part and attempted to add siding to that side in hopes of placating him. So, I think a retaliation like this, in good faith, I think I have quite a case. So thank you all, and I will appeal this.
Thank you. Next case is case number 2022-2238, 1504 North Sunrise Drive, owner Aislinn Holdings. Officer Brad.
This case has been open since the 13th of April of last year. It encompasses the following violations: vacant structures and land, inadequate protective treatment, duty of maintenance of private property, vacant building not secured, accumulation of construction, demolition, and landscaping debris, accumulation of rubbish and garbage, repeat offender, unlicensed and inoperable vehicles, inadequate glazing or broken windows, accumulation of tires, dangerous building, and unfit for human habitation. The property has been brought in front of the board twice now, after 3 citations were issued on May 18th of 22, May 31st of 22, and July 26th of 22. We then brought it before the board and requested per day fines twice. The board approved those unanimously, and those were issued on September 6th of 22 and February 7th of 23. The property was undergoing per day fines from the one that was issued on February 7th. And just to recap here, so here's our 3 citations that were issued: May 18th of last year, May 31st of last year, July 26th of last year, first per day fine citation in September. And then after the tenants moved out and it began to deteriorate, and this is February of this year, you see the broken windows and trash left behind, the door that was kicked in. We were notified by the Bowling Green Fire Department very early on the morning of March 30th that they were on scene of the property to put out a fire. There was significant damage to the house, and code official Heather Lashley responded to the property and contacted the property manager, Ron Cummings, who has been before the board as a representative for this property owner. We notified him to board the house as quickly as possible for safety and security reasons and at the request of the fire investigator. These are pictures from the fire here in front of you. The morning as the fire department was still on scene. The property owner did board the house However, on May 3rd of this year, Officer Lashley discovered that the house had been vandalized by graffiti and notified the property owner it needed to be covered or, painted over or removed as quickly as possible due to the content of some of that graffiti. She gave them several days in order to take action on that, which they failed to do. Some of this has been censored, if you see the red box there on some of these pictures, but otherwise you see the graffiti that was applied to the house. So we then had a contractor respond on the 8th of May, and the contractor went out and painted over all of that graffiti and resecured all of the boards to make sure that it was continued to be secure. Due to the repeat offender designation of the property owner, the long history of failure to bring properties into compliance, and prior information that the property owner intended to demolish this property anyway, but has taken no action to do so, the city is requesting that we have authorization from the board to proceed to demolish the structure for the safety of the neighbors and the public. The case has been open for 400 days, over 400 days now, and it remains in violation. It currently has over $15,500 in outstanding taxes and code fees and fines since purchased by the current owner in 2020.
Make a motion that we authorize initiation demolition for this structure on the property by the city contractor.
And I'll second that. Here, I'm sorry, Harmon, sorry.
Here.
Yes.
Holman.
Yes?
Harmon.
Yes.
Fred, can I ask, wasn't this the one?
This one, the one I just presented and the one I'm about to present are both that, as well as the back of 1500 North Sunrise, which has an accessory structure in a state of disrepair. That one's also on its second per day fine. And they had intended to demolish all three of these, but have taken no action to do so.
I can't remember how, specifically remember.
It wasn't last month, it was 2 months ago, I believe.
He called my office today and he says he's working on, there are too many properties and too much to catch up, but he's trying a little at a time to get some things done.
He had just taken over, what I remember is the last hearing we had, he'd just taken over and asked for some time, and I thought it'd been a period of time that would have been adequate.
Apparently when he took over, he didn't realize the amount of properties or their current condition, so.
Frequent flyer, so I just.
Well, maybe it's inappropriate, but does the city get these taxes? What do we do about the defaulted taxes?
He'll answer that for you.
We're working on it. He called because a business owned by Mr. Hankins that's under a different name. He is working on that one, and he wanted a building permit, and the city won't grant those when you owe and we looked it up today, it's about $118,000, I think that. So when my paralegal called him back, I told her to make sure that Mr. Cummings knows that this is number one on my list because of the large amount outstanding and the number of properties that are in this condition around our city. And so he said he's slowly but surely working on them. He wants to come to some agreement regarding payment, which would also require him to get these things up to speed. So we'll see. I'll probably talk to him sometime this week.
Thank you.
Case number 4, case number 2023-0237, 1508 North Sunrise Drive, owner Aislinn Holdings, LLC.
And also, I failed to mention both the prior case and this case. We sent notification to the property owner to 4 addresses by certified and first-class mail, allowing them to be present tonight at the hearing for this request to demolish so that they could, fill us in on their plans or their intent to demolish, and they did not show up. So Let's see, this case has been open since January 24th of this year for the violations of vacant structures and land, inadequate protective treatment, abandoned, duty of maintenance of private property, unsecured hatchways, vacant building not secured, accumulation of construction, demolition, and landscaping debris, scattered garbage, accumulation of rubbish and garbage, and definition of repeat offender. This one, again, has been cited 3 times, so it was cited on January 27th, which you see here in front of you. That was the first citation issued, and we had to have that one secured by city contractors, which I believe was a $450 work order. Second citation issued on February 9th of this year. And the third citation, it's kind of a time lapse there. If you see there's 1 on a stick, then there's 2 on a stick, and 3 on a stick there. But March 13th of this year was the third citation. We then brought it in front of the board to request per-day fines, and the per-day fine was issued on April 19th and is currently running. It continues to be a blight on the surrounding area and is deteriorating. On May 5th, it was vandalized, as well as the other one next door, as you just saw. Not only was this one had a large amount of graffiti, but additional windows were kicked in, broken, doors were forced in, and it was again unsecured. So we again offered the property owner and Mr. Cummings to paint over the graffiti, remove it, and secure the building. They were given several days. They failed to do so, so a work order was submitted and the city contractor had to go back out, and we had to reboard the property and paint over the graffiti. So, due to the repeat offender designation of the property owner, the long history of failure to bring properties into compliance, and the prior information that the owner intends to demolish the property anyway but has taken no action to do so, we're requesting authorization to demolish the structure for the safety of the neighbors and the public. It currently has over $6,200 in outstanding taxes and code fees and fines since the current owner took ownership in 2020.
Thank you.
Make a motion to authorize initiation of demolition process structures on the property by a city contractor.
I'll second that one as well.
Deere, Harmon?
Here.
Yes.
Holman.
Yes.
Harmon.
Yes.
Case number 5, case number 2022-7831, 702 Fern Hill Street, owner Christina and James Sweeney. Officer Hetty?
Yes, thank you. In July of last year, 2022, I received a complaint of new gravel at 702 Fern Hill Street. I did inspect and did find that there was a gravel. Sent out a notice of violation in August of 2022 with a 60-day revisit or re-inspection time. I re-inspected in October and found that it appeared no movement towards compliance. There's still gravel, unpermitted gravel, and no site work application submitted or noted. Therefore, I sent the first citation beginning in November. I revisited in January of 2023 and sent the second citation. Still no movement towards compliance. And looks like in March of 2023, the third citation, no movement towards compliance. So therefore, it is still out of compliance. And as of today, it's been 304 days.
Thank you. Entertain a motion.
Make a motion to implement for 60 days.
I'll second that as well.
Deere, Harmon?
Here.
Yes.
Holman.
Yes.
Harmon.
Yes.
Okay, our next hearing date is June 27th, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second that motion to adjourn.
Harmon, Deere?
Here.
Yes.
Holman.
Yes.
Harmon.
Yes.